Hello ladies and gentlemen, Simon Gertzen here for mtgoacademy.com. This is my Simon Says series. You can watch everything I've done in the archives, but today we are going to do our first Gatecrash draft. I've been a bit slow to get started for different reasons. There were some real life things I had to do. You might have seen me commentating Grand Prix London. Then I got a little bit sick, and now I'm back again with Gatecrash drafts. Now, fittingly, given that we are drafting Gatecrash, my computer crashed just when I tried to make my first pick. So I restarted Magic Online and I had about 3 seconds to make my first pick, and I reconstructed the pack I was looking at. Now, in the 3 seconds I had, my train of thought was basically Signal the Clans is okay but not a bomb. Oh, there's a Drake Ring Crisis. I like that. I'm going to take it. So this was everything I saw from the pack, basically. It was that close to just giving me a random pick, which, well, I wouldn't really have wanted to use for this episode. However, I think that I can make up for the missing first pick by just discussing it in detail in this intro. And interestingly enough, I think that Drake and Crisis is the correct pick from this pack, but that was more or less just a lucky coincidence. That could have easily been a better common or uncommon, which I just didn't see in time. So what is Gatecrash about? Well, I talked about having the 5 guilds and basically wanting to draft a guild deck. You can splash something. There's some rumors about being able to draft something like 5-color control with a lot of removal, but what you have to be aware is that you're going to be playing against very synergistic guild decks, and those are going to be fast, evasive, aggressive, going to make blocking difficult. So all in all, we are looking at a very aggressive, or at least a tempo-based format, and that actually influences how you should look at several of these picks. So it's much less about just picking high-value cards like Knightly Valor in Return to Ravnica. It's much more about curve and just coming out ahead in the early game and transitioning into the mid-game successfully with the right combination of creatures and spells. Now, this pack is pretty mediocre, I think. It doesn't have the top cards. I think Drake and Crisis is probably the best common in Simic, but for all the other guilds, those aren't the cards you're looking for. Martial Glory is a great combat trick, probably the best trick for Boros, but Boros can make use of the red Blood Rush creatures to get a similar effect, and wants creatures over anything. And that means that for Boros, I actually think that all the creatures are better first picks than Martial Glory, and Skinbrand Goblin, for me, is one of the cards that the Boros deck wants most. And what would make it the pick for me here is that it gives Gruul decks a very good 2-drop that acts as a trump in the late game when you want your Zhur-Tar Swines to survive a block, for example. Now, this is pretty extreme, showing that a card like Skinbrand Goblin is, in my opinion, better than Assault Griffin. Tells you a lot about the format, I feel like. The same goes with the blue and black cards, basically. Shadow Slice and Totally Lost are fine, but quite expensive, and I don't want to draft start my draft with a 5-drop. I would much rather pick a 1, 2, or 3-drop, preferably even a 2-drop. And Agoraphobia, while being a nice removal spell, doesn't really work well in the decks that are trying to be aggressive, and I want to be aggressive with almost all my decks. So it's not the card I'm actively looking to draft. Aetherise is, in my opinion, close to unplayable. I think it's a very bad card in almost all situations. I wouldn't touch that. Even if there are some stories of absolute blowouts, it's when you look at it in your hand, it's just miserable. So Rust Scarab and Signal the Clans, both fine cards and certainly good main deckable options in the corresponding colors, but nothing I want to start my draft with. So overall, I think that Drake and Crisis is best card here because it is the best card in Simic. Simic does have a lot of 2-drops and a lot of playable 1-drops, which means that curving out into a 3-mana flyer triggers Evolve and puts a lot of pressure on the opponent, and it interacts very nicely with Cypher and Blood Rush because it has Trample. If Dracoon Crisis wasn't in the pack, I would honestly just pick Skinbrand Goblin because I think it does the most in Boros and Gruul. Looking at this pack. So that was an in-depth look at the pack I actually missed and just blindly picked the Dracoon Crisis, and you can check out the draft video to see how the draft went and then watch some exciting matches. Enjoy the show, let me know what you think in the comments, and see you next time. Bye bye.